Hey everybody, welcome to Impact Theory. Today's guest is Fran Drescher, the Emmy and Golden Globe nominated actress who has had an extraordinary career that has spanned decades and covered everything from Broadway to the silver screen in such memorable film and television projects as Saturday Night Fever, The Nanny, and the film that defined my entire youth, UHF. She is also a cancer survivor, best-selling author, philanthropist, health advocate, and the star of the hilarious new sitcom Indebted. Fran, welcome to the show. It is absolutely wonderful to have you here.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
I really cannot start this show any other way than to say UHF is, quite frankly, the film I've seen more than any other film on the planet. So thank you for that. It was absolutely
That's
hilarious.
so sweet. They recently wrote a book about Weird Al and his contribution to comedy. And I wrote a lovely quote for him that's, I think, on the book jacket now.
That's so cool. Yeah, that movie. It's always funny because I was a film major, went to film school, took myself very seriously in film school, and people always ask, like, what's your favorite movie or what movie have you seen the most? And my answer was always UHF. So that was quite unusual in film school, but nonetheless true. So
Mine is always Annie Hall.
great choice. Great choice. Great movie. Absolutely fantastic. Your whole life has really been pretty crazy. In the beginning of Cancer Schmancer, you do this like rundown of what your life has been. It's really pretty extraordinary. Going through some of the things you've dealt with, I think, are really appropriate to what's happening right now with COVID-19, and everything is really pretty crazy. When you think about trauma and you think about building back from that, what's been your secret between the rape and then cancer, and yet still being so creatively putting out so much? How has your process been overcoming that and building back?
There's a couple of tools that I have come to rely on. First of all, there a trust that wherever you are now is not permanent. To also know that when you're in trauma, that it's not the time to make important life-changing decisions, but to trust people that you have come to trust in your life who truly love you, help guide you, because they're not in trauma, so they're probably thinking more clearly than you. To get help, because you need to have a trained ear to help walk you through your pain and find your way out the other side. And I think that turning your pain into purpose is very healing and somehow helps make sense out of the senseless. Writing about it, even if you don't become a best-selling author like myself, is very cathartic and extremely helpful. And there's always somebody that can read your words and benefit by them, or not. Even if it's just for your own benefit, it's very cathartic and helpful. And then to ask yourself, which is very Buddhist, and I am a Buddhist, or as I like to call myself, a Boo-Jew. I think asking yourself, why is the universe presenting this to me now? And how can I learn from this experience on my journey of self-refinement? So when you pose the question in that way, and you start to think to yourself, okay, well, why is this being presented to me? And what is it bringing up in me? And what do I need to see in myself? What is it forcing me to look at? How can I become better for it? And I can say from experience that, even though obviously nobody wants to have anything bad happen to them, I don't either. And I don't wish it on anybody, but one random Wednesday afternoon, life is going to bite you on the ass and you're not going to expect it. It's going to be totally out of left field. And then it's going to possibly change forever your life. So whatever you thought your life was going to be isn't anymore. And it's going to take a little while for you to absorb this. You're going to kick and scream and say, "Why me, Lord?" But at some point, you're going to have to play the hand that's been dealt you as elegantly and courageously as you possibly can. Or you're going to become cemented in what was supposed to be and waste the rest of your life being bitter. And I don't think that's what you should do. It certainly wasn't my choice. My mom always used to say, man plans and God laughs. And that's true because we don't have a crystal ball. Nobody knows what's going to happen 5 minutes from now, let alone the rest of our lives. So naively, we kind of make plans for the future. And that helps us to make some choices along the way. But when the plan that you've been playing doesn't work anymore, you have to plan a new play and play that one. And it's hard. You really have to shift gears in a very big way. It takes a lot of strength and courage. But the deeper you go in the new direction that has been kind of dictated for you, other things happen, things you never imagined. You go to places you never thought possible. You turn into somebody you never imagined yourself to be. And you let the river carry you. You let life carry you. And along the way, you keep asking yourself, why is this being presented to me? How can I become a better person through this experience? What is it bringing up in me? What do I see in myself that I think I could improve? And that is the journey of life.
You said something back there that I think is really interesting, which is that, okay, you've got these plans, something happens, and now you have to change, but that change is hard. I've talked to a lot of people in my life that I feel like when they went through trauma, the trauma really came to define them. And I'd like to tease apart the hard part. What is it about that change is hard? And ultimately, we'll get to the Buddhism. But as far as I know, you didn't have those tools earlier in your life. So I'd be curious how you dealt with it in the early days versus how you deal with it now, where you have a more robust toolkit. So when you first were assaulted, for instance, I've always wondered, how do people have fun again? Like, how do they be playful again? How did you not let that become part of your identity? Was that conscious? Were you going through therapy? Like, what was that sort of first tool bag grab that you went to?
Well, on night one, I grabbed a joint. And, I did start therapy. I learned to trust the people that were advising me, even though I didn't agree with it. It didn't feel authentic to me.
What were
I
they
wanted
saying,
to
and
leave
what?
town.
Yeah, that's what I want to know. Like, what
I
felt
wanted to
authentic?
move. I wanted to give up the business. I thought when I had a gun to my head, I wasn't thinking about the awards I didn't win or the parts I didn't play. I felt like I was living in a war zone. I wanted to move someplace that was on an island, maybe someplace more safe, smaller. And I would have gone like that week. But my manager and very dear friend, who is somewhat of a surrogate mother out here in LA, said, honey, I don't think you're in a position to make these kinds of life-changing decisions right now. And I think you should give it 6 months. And if in 6 months you feel like you want to go, then I'll help you pack. And I didn't want to say. I felt very, like I was in danger. And I was very on edge. But I knew that she loved me. And I knew that she was very wise. And I knew that I had been severely traumatized and was not maybe thinking clearly. So I listened to her, even though it went against the grain for me. And she was right. Within, by 6 months, I was no longer talking about moving. I was just thinking about moving on.
Right.
And that's, the healthy transition to make. And I think that, I also moved in with friends. I didn't stay at my house. I was scared to stay at my house. So for like 3 months, I lived at a friend's. And actually, it was the Aykroyds. Peter, my husband, and myself moved in with them.
Wow.
And they were, in a secure, gated home. And we just felt safe not being alone because Peter and I were both, scared. And we kept igniting each other's fear. If I'd get scared, he'd get scared. There was nobody between us to calm the other one down. So we needed to be with normal people who had not been through the trauma. So that was another thing that I did. And then I got a movie and I took it. It was a comedy. I didn't feel like being funny, but we needed the money. And so I did it. And, it was hard for me to go to work, to be in my dressing room. I was very fearful back then, especially right then. And that was when I started bringing my dog to most places with me. Because even if you have a small dog like your dog, which was the breed I used to have, they are good watchdogs. See, now I have a watchdog. When I had my Pomeranians, it would be like they're great watchdogs, but now what? But now I have a dog who's like, she's like part wolf. So she's a good watchdog and she's a threatening looking animal. And I feel good about that because when you're violated like I was, that leaves its imprint on you. It never goes away completely. You get on with your life. And, there was a wonderful play, I think it was called Down the Rabbit Hole. And there's a monologue in it. And they were talking about the death of a child. But anybody in the audience could relate because no one leaves this planet unscathed. And pain is pain. And in this play, in the monologue, the woman said that at first you feel like you are buried beneath a huge, heavy boulder. And the weight of it is so overwhelming, you just can't endure it. But given time, you're able to kind of push the boulder off you just enough to see some sunlight. And then you're able to kind of climb out from under it and stand up. And then as time goes on, the boulder becomes like a brick in your pocket. You're not always aware of it, but sometimes you remember that there's this weight in your pocket, and you're reminded. And that's the way you go on for the rest of your life, with something that's profoundly, shockingly traumatizing and painful. The important thing is that pain will find its way in your body if you don't let it out. And my problem back then was that I didn't really explore the depths of despair that I was in. I kind of was still in that superwoman mode, and I thought I needed to be strong and pick myself up and dust myself off, take the job, doing the movie, get on with my life. And I remember once I was in a restaurant, and they, I think it was a busboy or a server, dropped a tray, and it made a loud crashing noise, which obviously everyone in the restaurant noticed, but I leaped to my feet and screamed. Now, I didn't even, without even thinking about it. It was an absolutely primal response, because the pain was so close to the surface that the loud noise just, and everybody in the restaurant looked at me as I slinked back down into my chair. And over the years, I think that not really dealing with that pain, that fear, turned into, poetically, my uterine cancer.
Yeah,
because I got a gynecologic cancer, and after not dealing with the pain of a rape.
I have to say that is, I've heard you talk about that before. That is very weird.
Well, it's, you mean that I would get a gynecologic cancer?
Yeah, specifically, right? So.
But it's not weird. I mean, if you believe in Asian wisdom and medicine, it's actually not weird at all. There are very specific kinds of traumas that seem to lodge themselves in certain parts of the body.
That's really interesting. So I don't know how much you've explored the way that psychedelics and MDMA are being used with trauma recovery. It's something I'm really fascinated by. So the whole idea of trauma and the way that it defines people's lives, are people I'm very close to that have really had basically all of their identity formed by early trauma. The number of people that are defined by their childhoods I find absolutely terrifying. And this notion of, okay, so you've been through a trauma, and now what we're going to have you do is what you're talking about. You're going to revisit that trauma, but you're going to do it when you're on, let's say, MDMA. So you've got MDMA, which is flooding your brain with serotonin. You're now, whether you want to be or not, no matter what you're thinking about, you're going to be feeling good. You're going to feel love and connectedness and all of the wonderful things that that sort of brain state brings. And now we're going to have you revisit your trauma. And what they find is certainly all of this sort of self-blame, all of the punishing myself, all of that begins to wash away. And people they're able to revisit this trauma with a sense of love and acceptance and compassion. And they're talking about, for people with intractable depression, PTSD, intractable anxiety, that a single treatment has an effective rate of something like 80 to 85%, which is really, really pretty extraordinary. One thing I wanted to ask you more about is when you talk about, I forget the exact word you use, like dealing with the pain, releasing the pain, letting it go, expressing it, that's what I want to understand. Like, how do you do that? What is the sort of physical manifestation? If somebody has been through that sort of trauma, how can they let it go? Like, what is that process? Because if I step into so I know Eastern philosophy quite well. I wouldn't call myself a Buddhist. I certainly don't understand it at that level, but I've studied it enough to understand this too shall pass, and clinging and suffering and all of that. And that I get, right? It's a contraction. It's pulling it in. It's holding on to it. versus, expanding and letting something go. How do you physically, as a process through the pain and release it?
Well, first of all, you have to get comfortable sitting with pain. You can't numb yourself from your pain. You can't anesthetize yourself from your pain. You have to sit in pain. And that's a very difficult thing to do because, as I said, the first thing I did when I was raped at 25 was grab a joint. Today, I wouldn't do that because I understand that I have to feel my feelings. And I went to a really serious older woman, psychotherapist for many years. And she said to me, you can't come stoned to these sessions. And she said, because this is all about feeling your feelings, not numbing yourself from your feelings. And so that was the beginning of me feeling my feelings and understanding that the reason why I used to smoke so much pot was because I was numbing myself from my feelings. I didn't have tools how to experience my feelings, how to articulate my feelings, or how to even acknowledge them without feeling like I was being selfish or self-indulgent. These were words that I used to use if I put myself into the equation, because I had spent the better part of my life from early childhood being needless and getting a lot of reinforcement for that. So I had to learn how to recognize my own needs and not make every decision based off of what's best for the collective, but actually put myself in first position and make sure that it's good for me too. To become a well-rounded human being, you must acknowledge who you are, and that you're living your life. And everything around you and everybody that you meet and everything that crosses your path and every experience that you have is opportunities on your journey of self-refinement. That's the point. It's a big classroom, and it's for your benefit.
When did Buddhism enter into all of this, and what are some of the biggest lessons that it's helped you with?
I'm going to take a sip of tea. I didn't grow up religious, although I am of the Jewish faith. In my family, we honored more the heritage, the struggles, the family, the matriarch, education. These were the things that I recall being a big through line growing up. We would get together for the holidays as a reason to be with family and friends and gratitude, but we'd almost never follow any of the rules. And I remained that way. My sister, less so. She raised two daughters. She wanted them to go to Hebrew school. She wanted them to be bat mitzvah. I never embraced that. I think that there are many different belief systems that offer a lot of wisdom, and it's worth exploring them as they present themselves to you, if they resonate with you. So that was my thing. And then a girlfriend of mine one day gave me a book of Buddhist offerings that was like 365 days. So she said, I keep it in my kitchen because we always go into the kitchen first in the morning every day. And I simply turn the page. And it's another Buddhist wisdom offering from a myriad of different sage thinkers. And not, and they may not even all be Buddhists. Some may be Hindus, some may be, but they're all dancing around that same kind of philosophy. And sometimes they say things, some are long gone and quite ancient, and others are walking right now with us.
Do you remember any of the ones that really hit you?
Well, over and over again, being present is a very important thing.
When you have to explain that to people, the notion of being present, this is something I think a lot of people, they get the words, they know each of the words individually, but when you string them together to be present, where I don't think it really lands with people, how do you explain that concept?
Well, you know how people sometimes say, where does the time go? Most of the time goes dwelling in the future or the past. And that's why time escapes us. The most important time is the now. But how do we stay in the now when the mind keeps wanting to ruminate about a conversation that annoyed you from 3 weeks ago? Or you're fearful or anticipating or worried about a future that you have zero control over. So we spend a lot of time doing that. And a third of our life was sleeping. So, there isn't really a moment to waste. So being in the now, right now, is very important. So how do you do that? Well, that's why some cultures promote meditating. What's meditating? That's being very single-minded. So you're staying with what you're trying to focus on as much as possible. And then the mind's going to drift off and you're going to start thinking about what you want to make for dinner. And then you're going to have that awareness behind the thought, which is also something you cultivate and get better at, of, oh God, now I'm thinking about dinner. So let me go back to thinking about, my breathing, and maybe I might have a mantra that someone gave me, or you could just say Om, or you could just say love, or you could just say God, whatever you want. It doesn't matter. Now, are you ever great at it? No, you're never great at it. Do you keep doing it? You try to keep doing it because in the doing of it, you begin to notice you're getting a little calmer. You're getting a little more aware. And throughout the day, you'll notice, oh God, I'm off in somewhere and I'm not in the present. So you do cultivate that ability more and more. Then the other thing is that I do, and that I was taught to do, which is a very good tool, is look around you. Notice where you are. It could be that corner of my ceiling, the most mundane thing that I haven't looked at like forever, and I don't really care about. But there it is, and it's this line and that line. And suddenly you're pulled into the moment because you're forcing yourself to look at the mundane with wide-eyed wonder. And that is being present. So whenever you find yourself in the future or in the past, which is robbing you of your precious life, pull yourself back into the moment by, if nothing else, noticing the mundane. Sometimes I'll be here in Los Angeles, we drive a lot, and I'm stuck in traffic. And back in the day, I would be like, oh my God, I got to get to where I'm going. And it's like, not anymore, because I'm a Buddhist, and the universe wants me to be here. So here is where I'm at. Okay, I can't control this. So I'm going to look around and notice where I am. And suddenly I see things that I didn't see before. I notice a flag blowing in the breeze. I notice, the reflection on the ocean. I notice the driver next to me. I notice a car with a dog looking at me, and I'm looking at the dog. And all of a sudden, I'm in the moment. I'm not anxious that I'm not where I can't get to anyway. I'm dealing with what is, because what is, and nothing else matters. And the more you can do that in your life, the more you can be in the moment. That is the gift of living. And it protracts your life. It slows life down in a very meaningful way.
You've obviously put together a lot of really useful tools, and I know that I still can't believe this is true, but the night when you were raped, you actually had someone over for dinner who was also raped. Have you guys stayed in contact? Has she also developed tools? Have you guys supported each other through that? How has she, and obviously you can only speak for her so much, but how has she dealt with it?
We are still very, very good friends. I don't know how she how she was affected by it, I should say, as compared to me. Because I don't think that she became as scared as I became. I don't know if she was as traumatized, but it wasn't in her home. So that's a significant difference, because you feel safe. You should feel hopefully safe in your home. And I think that's probably the biggest chasm of difference between us. It wasn't her home. It was my home. She went home to her home.
Right.
I was stuck in my home. And the home no longer felt as safe to me. I had to climb out of that pit. I got a lot of security. I lived very defensively. But also I had to learn how to get past that.
This whole notion of safety I find really interesting, especially right now. I think that with a pandemic literally hitting, I think a lot of people are going to feel unsafe. Probably two things. One, just am I going to get sick? And then two, obviously financially. Having gone through cancer, which feels, I'm sure, I haven't thankfully had it, but I'm guessing you do feel a sense that your body is somewhat turned on you. How do you reestablish that sense of safety? You talk in the book. The book sort of ends at the first year of you having gone through this. And I know in that there was like a constant sense of, oh my God, is it going to come back? Is it going to come back? How do you reestablish that sense of safety in your own body?
Well, and I think that this is pretty true for most cancer survivors. You get a headache and you think, oh my God, brain tumor. You have a cough and you think, oh my God, lung cancer. It takes a while to trust your body again. And suddenly a headache is just a headache, a cough is just a cough, and a sneeze is just a sneeze. Again, time helps you with that, trusting your body. But, one of the silver linings, and there were many from the cancer experience, from every experience, and most of the best growing that we do comes out of pain. That's why they call it growing pains. Was that I founded the Cancer Schmancer movement. And, that's a great example of turning my pain into purpose and helping other people. And, one of the things about my movement that's maybe different from other health nonprofits is that we're a very empowering organization, and we're not looking for a cure for cancer. We're telling you what the causes are and how to eliminate them, and what you need to do to bolster your immune system, and how you need to focus in on your body so you become the thermostat of your body and realize when things are compromising it, when it's going off kilter, what you need to do to restore it and put it back to its perfect optimum level. And this is a daily practice. And we're not really taught that anywhere in Western culture. And it's really, really sad. because it's much more common in Asian cultures and indigenous cultures. And we've been dumbed down and numbed down to think that we have to depend on a pharmaceutical drug or an inoculation or your doctor or a hospital to make you well, when we have so much independent of that to help our bodies be strong so that we don't get sick in the first place. And so a thing that we always say is take control of your body. And so, even during these strange and challenging times of a pandemic, I think it's important that people know that food is medicine, and bolstering your immune system is key to be able to resist viruses. We expose ourselves to a myriad of viruses each and every day. The reason why the species continues is because we have this amazing thing called an immune system. And we have to learn how to protect it, how to take care of it, how to nurture it, how to honor it, and how to honor our bodies.
When you say to be a thermostat, what do you mean by that exactly?
Well, like, for example, a thermostat is something that you set the point that's the optimum comfort temperature in your home, let's say 72 degrees. Okay, so then suddenly a door opens, a big wind comes in, and it drops down, but the thermostat recognizes that and clicks on the heat. Or suddenly there's a heat wave and the temperature rises. So the thermostat clicks on because it recognizes that we're no longer at the optimum temperature, and it clicks on the air conditioning. Okay, so that's the function of a thermostat. In your own body, you're the intelligence. You are the thermostat of how the systems within your body are functioning. So if your boss yells at you and you didn't do anything wrong, you're going to be stressing. You have to have the intelligence to say, okay, I'm really stressed about this. That's going to compromise my immune system. So what am I going to do about that? Well, I can meditate. I can sit quietly for 10 minutes. I could take a walk out in the fresh air and feel the sunshine and listen to the bird song. I could amp up on my antioxidants, which is helpful. Take a couple of vitamin C, wouldn't hurt. These are the ways that you become the intelligent thermostat of your body. Always, always trying to keep mind, body, and spirit in balance and at its optimal checkpoint. Now, when you have felt like fantastic, it's like, I feel so great. It's usually pretty fleeting. But whenever that is, that's what you're always trying to get to. And you do that by being mindful of mind, body, and spirit. So how is your mind controlling you, or are you controlling your mind? What thoughts are you allowing in? And then body. Are you honoring your body? If you're tired, lay down. If you're hungry, eat. What are you eating? What personal care items are you using? At Cancer Schmancer, we have a very progressive program called Detox Your Home, because the home is the most toxic place we spend the most time in, and ironically have the most control over. So if you're eating industrial farm foods that's filled with pesticides and herbicides and GMOs and growth hormones and antibiotics, you are not doing yourself a service at all. And you're going to start experiencing a lot of things that you may not connect with the fact that you're eating food that's filled with toxins. But if you have arthritis, if you have autoimmune problems, if you have leaky gut, if you have skin problems, there are so many things that your body will express its unhappiness that you are ingesting and putting topically on Toxins. Steer clear of that. All of it. And cleaning products. Oh my God. You're doing yourself more harm than good. Yourself, your family, your pets, your garden.
What are some big things outside of food that people are making just like super common mistakes on?
Toothpaste. Toothpaste. If you're using a toothpaste, and most of the major brands, I would say, that on the back says, do not swallow or call poison control. Really? Is there anything more counterintuitive than that to something that you put in your mouth every day, usually a few times a day? Step away from that toothpaste. Just, I don't usually tell people to throw things away, but the mouth and the gums are gateway to dis-ease. So, think, people, because if you're using anything that on the ingredients aren't just simple ingredients that might have grown in your grandma's garden, don't use it.
You're one of the few people that I hear talking about grounding or earthing, as some people call it. What are some of the positive things that people can do? So obviously, be careful what you eat, removing toxicity from your life wherever humanly possible. What are some of the proactive things that they can do to be healthier?
Well, when you mentioned grounding, so what is grounding? When that third prong in your electric plug, that's a grounding plug. Why do we have that? Because the earth, that's attached inside the socket, goes way down into the earth, because the earth helps ground us. We are creatures of this planet. We are one with this planet, and we need to ground ourselves with the earth's energy. We wear a lot of rubber-soled shoes. That disconnects us with the earth's energy. Walk barefoot more. Walk on the earth barefoot more. Walk on the beach more. There's a reason why people, people like to vacation by the ocean a lot, and it puts them into more of a state of relaxation because there are negative ions that come off of the ocean. That decompresses us. Walking on the sand decompresses us because we're getting the earth's energy. So all that is part of grounding and having an awareness of reducing the electromagnetic fields. So that's, that's what, when we talk about grounding, that's very important, because you have to realize that the human body is all electrical. It's just a big energy field. And so what complements the energy versus what discombobulates it is part of why we experience dis-ease. And, we really have to pay a lot of attention to how to live a toxic-free life, to have an emotionally balanced life, to make kindness and compassion your compass. These are the things that become a daily practice, and you're never perfect at it. Otherwise, what would this life be about? And I just urge everybody to go to cancerschmancer.org, because what we offer you, there's a level of such informative video that you can view for free from some of the most outside of the box, brilliant doctors who went to medical school, drank the Kool-Aid, started practicing, began to think there's got to be a better way, got woke, and became the founders of functional medicine, which is what we at Cancer Schmancer align ourselves with now. And they're all there. We do an annual Masterclass Health Summit, and the one that we had just put out is there for everyone to see. We're trying to educate people through this time of, the pandemic, and empower them.
One thing I'd love to ask you about in terms of sort of optimizing our human condition, and you being a comedian and such an enormously successful one, how much does the laughter and the levity play a role in the healing process?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, because laughter definitely is the best medicine, and that's been scientifically proven. I'm only watching comedies and cooking shows, which for me is the equivalent of sucking my thumb and twirling my hair. And we do believe that, trying to be joyful in, harder times is a little more challenging, but it's when it's especially needed. And one of the things that I learned through all of my experiences is that side by side with with despair lies joy. And you just have to kind of look over for it and see it. Miracles abound everywhere, even a tiny little flower growing between the crack of a cement sidewalk. It's there. Notice it. Be present. Lift your spirits with the natural world. It's really very soothing and healing.
And feeding into all of this in terms of bringing a little bit of ray of sunshine in this super weird time, you've got your new show, Indebted.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, of course. So how are you
That's
feeling
on
about
Thursday
this?
nights on NBC at 9:30, 8:30 Central.
I love some of the cool things that you've done in terms of bringing the cast together. You said that, when you're doing a show, you really have to do things to bond, to come together, that a little touch can go a long way. In this time where we can't connect in that way, how have you worked to keep either them together or other people in your life? What are you doing to stay connected with people?
Well, it's really interesting how all this social media and FaceTiming and Skype and Zoom and all of these ways that we can connect with the outside world is factoring so heavily into our daily life. So I've been in gratitude for FaceTime for a long time because it's how I get to see my parents every day. And I feel so blessed that it was invented while I still have them. So that's, the miracle of technology. But it doesn't, hold a candle to being with your family, taking a walk, playing a game together. Suddenly people are doing puzzles. It's getting back to basics. And that's great too. Cooking, baking, eating together, talking, everybody watching a movie together on, a stream network or something. It's all there for us. And it's going to be, as much of a devastating time as it will be a joyful time if we allow it to be a time to reconnect, a time to let the planet heal a little bit from all the noise, from all the abuse, from all the pollution, a time to just self-reflect and dial everything back to a simpler experience of what life should be like.
And if in this time people wanted to connect with you, or any time for that matter, what's the best way to connect with you, Cancer Schmancer? Obviously, you told people that the new show, Indebted, is Thursdays, so check that out. But what's the best way to connect with you?
Well, I'm on Instagram, official Fran Drescher, as well as Facebook, which is also official Fran Drescher, and Twitter is just Fran Drescher, not just, but Fran Drescher, and that's a good way. I check in with that. I answer back to people, and it's a good way to know what's going on with me. And then, of course, cancerschmancer.org, which particularly now, that's so much got my, imprint on it everywhere. And I moderate interviews, and it's such a great learning opportunity. And it's comforting because all we do is empower you because knowledge is power.
Now, you're doing so many things in your life. What ultimately is the impact that you want to have on the world?
Well, I mean, I feel blessed that I'm able to make people laugh. And I feel like, particularly as a celebrity that has the kind of reach that I have and ability to influence people, I'm very grateful that I apply it towards the greater good. I mean, there are things that concern me, and the way we look at our health, obviously, that's a big one. But, going to the mat for those who are marginalized and protecting animals and the planet and cleaning up our food.
Well said. Well, guys, this is totally unexpected for me. I was shocked at the depth of her life and experience and how much she brings to her comedy and how much she is bringing to the world in terms of information and trying to help people avoid some of the difficulties that she's been through. It's really pretty extraordinary. I highly encourage you guys to read her book. It's phenomenal. Her shows are hilarious, one after the other. Definitely check that out. I'm grateful for everything you've contributed to my life. As I said, one of my all-time favorite films, UHF, absolutely amazing. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe here. And until next time, my friends, be legendary. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, Fran. I really appreciate it. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Fail on your idea or don't succeed on your idea. It hurts so much less. You go, well, I did my best. I tried. I had a good time. At least this happened. You could look at the glass half full. You can do all these wonderful things if it's yours.